December 1st,
I thought it was called Create.
and we will start off with Health Services Committee.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Also, this committee meeting at 6:01. There's one meeting going on. First resolution, authorizing agreement, Greene County Mental Health Department with Arthur McKinn, MD.
Davis.
Davis, second. Hobart, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Authorizing agreement, Greene County Mental Health with 24th Street Psychiatry, PC.
Davis.
Davis? Handel? Boomer? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Budget amendment, Greene County Mental Health, New York State Office of Mental Health.
Here. Omar.
Rivera, Hobart, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Are there any questions for Jason, or is there anything else? Yes.
Chairwoman Handel, I don't know if anyone from Public Health is on, right?
Kim is on.
Kim is on. I'm just curious to see what's going on with the county's involvement in vaccination to children. Are we involved in that at all?
Kim, are you there?
Kim, can you hear us?
I know I signed contracts for the schools. I believe the plan was getting machines for the schools to do testing. And the last I knew, they had questionnaires out to find out how many students were actually going to need that vaccination. But I don't know how far they were in actually dosing it.
Okay, but do you know how, if the county is actually involved in, would you say, the prescription to the children for these vaccines?
That I don't know. I think a lot of it is going to depend on how many kids were looking for it, as to whether that was something we were even going to be able to consider doing with our resources.
Kim does not have audio. She said she'll call in.
Wouldn't that fall underneath? Were the pass-through for the money for this?
I thought we were passed through either for the testing with Questar, wasn't it a few months ago? There was a, but I believe that was on the testing side.
Right, that was to keep them in school.
Right. Right, and we were the pass-through.
Right, the money came to us, we trickled it out to the schools as needed
She said, I
for
don't have audio. I'll call
testing.
in.
That's my understanding.
What would we pay? I see what Mikey was asking, is does it go through us as far as vaccinations?
Or is the schools handling that on their own?
I don't see where they can, I mean,
Well, then why should we want the responsibility?
I just don't think they're set up for it. I think it should be the
Hey,
parents.
Kim, do you have the Zoom number?
Anything to the school.
All right, thank you. Okay, thanks. She's gonna call in.
Also, once he gets his answer for that question, you can also ask her, I'm curious, are we gonna do another booster clinic in the county? I know we did one down in Grandview 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. Is she gonna do another one? Or on the mountaintop or wherever, it doesn't have to be in Casco.
While we're waiting for her to get on, does anybody have anything for Jason? His son has a concert tonight. No. If not, he may go. For Jason, enjoy the concert.
No, we're good.
No. You know, Patty, Kim can just send an email. She's having difficulty. She can send an email to us on that question. That's fine.
Kim?
Hi, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay. What is the question?
Kim, Mike Buelich, the question is how involved are we in the vaccination process for school children in our districts here?
You know, we did a lot of vaccinating initially in the schools. Right now, we have for the last 3 pods and then the follow-up pods worked with the New York State Vax to School team. So they've been going into the school offering, this has been the 12 and up, and also at the same time boostering and vaccinating the staff of the schools. So that's happened at 3 schools, and there's been 3 follow-up pods, except for Catskill. Catskill's waiting for their follow-up. And that's where we are right now as far as vaccinating of children. We're planning right now on the vaccination process for the younger children, because that takes us a slightly different process just because of their age.
Okay, are we involved in any mandates that the schools may impose in order for kids to play sports or be involved in any other extracurricular activities?
No, we have not participated in that mandate. That has been a school level decision.
That is school level. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, Kim.
Harry.
Go ahead, Harry.
So, Kim, this is Harry Lennon. Any plans for another booster pod?
Yes. Coming
Where?
up, and let me just double check the date. There is right now coming up on the 16th. So we're
Where
just planning that.
Where are you gonna have that?
Probably at the Community Life Church as well. That worked very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
16.
Anything else for Kim?
16.
All right, thanks, Kim. For anything
Thanks very
else
much.
For this committee? Not motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Second, Hobart, you're adjourned.
I thought it was you, Larry. Maybe you finally turned the ringer off. I'm not wearing a backpack either. What? Good joke.
Leave it unattended somewhere. Staples or something. Did you?
That's right, I got it. I couldn't find it in our office.
The Wi-Fi bill this month? Oh, okay. You're right. Tom does? Tom does?
Thank you, Tanya. Let's call
Jesus.
County Resources to order at 6:10 PM. We have a number of resolutions before us this evening, and we'll get started. Number 1 is your secra declaration and approving recommendations for including land into our ag district number 124. I need a motion.
Davis.
Second.
Over, Bob.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Authorizing agreement with our Greene County Agricultural Society. I need a motion. Rivera and Lennon. Any discussion on this? This is for the youth fair. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Authorizing agreement with Community Action of Greene County, Inc. Lennon, second. Linger. Just a little discussion on this. I'm going to reach out to them and have them come in and explain, give us a little bit of a explanation on what they do and how to use those funds in the next cycle. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Next item, authorizing agreement with Cornell Cooperative Extension, the Association of Columbia and Greene Counties. I need a motion.
Overall,
Bueller, I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Authorizing agreement, Council on the Arts. As chairman of this committee, I will be pulling this resolution this evening for some clarification from this department here and their budget. I have not seen their budget for 2021. That's usually been presented to us. So I'm going to pull this resolution and the following resolution until they give us some information as to what they're doing.
also on that, it says that the $35,990 that we have budgeted for this year was the same amount as last year. Last year, we decreased this item. I don't remember what the number was on it, but
Mary Jo, could you look into that maybe?
You did decrease the following resolution, but then you put it back up.
Right, we brought it back up.
After she came in.
After she
we
came in.
switched them around because the $35,990 is their money for their general fund.
Right.
The 40,000 is for the county initiative program.
40,000 you cut down, but then put it back up.
Yeah, 40,000 was right, but it's 35,990. I think it was less than that. Okay.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Okay, so those two resolutions we will pull until the next cycle here. They're gonna come in, and whoever that's with them, come in and explain their budget to us. Next one is authorizing agreement with the Greene County Federation of Sportsmen. Lennon, Rivera, any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Authorizing agreement with the Greene County Libraries Association. Rivera, Overblock, any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Authorizing agreement Soil and Water Conservation District. Linger, Bueller will second. Maybe that's a conflict for me to do that, and
Yeah, I'll
serve on
second.
that board.
I'll second.
Lennon, second.
Yep.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Authorizing agreement Soil and Water Conservation District RE, the Watershed Assistance Program. Motion on that. Davis, second. Overblock, any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Appointing and reappointing members to the Fish and Wildlife Management Board. These are two county legislators that sit on this. Oh, no.
No, this is Ray and Larry.
I have the wrong one here.
I'll
We got Walter
Yep.
Bennett,
Yep.
Lawrence DiDonato, and Greg Seeley.
move that forward.
Okay. Linger, second. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. There's the next one. Reappointing members to the Board of Directors for the Soil Conservation District. It's two legislators, Michael Buelich and James Thorrington. I need a motion. Rivera and Davis. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstain. Motion's carried. Reappointing members to the Board of Directors of the Soil Conservation District. This is Mr. Dennis Lucas, Mr. James Story, Mr. Jerry Cunningham. They've been doing this for a long time. They're pretty comfortable there. Rivera and Davis. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Appointing member, Columbia Green Workforce Development Board.
Lennon.
We have Lennon and Overblock. Any discussion for Mr. Becker? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. That's the end of our resolutions. Is there anything to come before county resources?
Motion closed.
Lennon to close. Second Rivera, we are closed.
I think we started. Very good. We started last week.
Exchanging that conversation. That goes with Texas Instruments.
Soup can on a string.
Larry's paper.
I'll share.
Yeah, just scroll and quill.
Love that.
That's my brain.
I can get those that kind.
That's what we're fishing for that on the calendar. Right on your phone. I like the calendar on a magnet. Where I can see it. If not, I forget it.
Propane stoves were, I think propane burner,
Yeah, you're right.
no controls, no electric.
There was no pilot light with the thing. And
Nothing to go back on.
box that wouldn't match it next to it.
Make sure the electric match before you turn on the burner. You know, we turn on the burn. Just do it 10 times. Boom.
Phone ring.
Limit.
We're good, Sam? Not April Fool's Day, right? All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee to order at 6:21 PM.
72.
There's 5 proposed action items. Before we get into those, attendance, we have Sheriff Kaczynski and Mr. Woodcock in jail. So Pete, I'd like to a quick summary.
Good evening, everyone. I don't have too much tonight, so this month we did 146 civil attempts, served 78 civil papers, issued 48 traffic tickets, investigated 41 traffic accidents, made 16 arrests and 4 DWI arrests. We handled 461 calls for service, made 89 traffic stops, and issued 4 Narcan rescue kits. On November 1st, 21, the starting jail population was 37, and as of November 30th, it was 31. Corrections officers did 22 transports, traveling 942 miles, totaling 49 hours, moving 23 inmates. We do have 1 state-ready inmate in our custody. He was previously scheduled to be delivered to docs, but tested positive for COVID, so he had to be quarantined. So we're still stuck with him. There are currently 4 other inmates quarantined for positive tests of COVID-19. However, they are asymptomatic, so none are showing any symptoms. They'll be released from quarantine on December 6th. Additionally, 2 of our cooks are out as they have also tested positive. So our head cook, Antoinette Wagenbaugh, with the assistance of the cooks from the Department of Aging, have continued to serve meals at the jail with no interruption. That's really all I have, but I do want to personally thank Legislator Larry Gardner and Legislator Bill Lawrence for their many years of dedicated services to the citizens of Greene County and to the Sheriff's Office. Thank you both very much. All I got.
Any other questions for the sheriff?
Out of that 31, was there how many males and females?
The 20, 25 males,
25 males.
6 females,
We still have females out of county.
Ulster. Good. Thank you all.
There it is, Randy. from 911 Center, Assistant Director.
Good evening, everyone. You're ready. Quick report. There were 3 relatively larger structure fires during the month of November. One in the town of Hunter, which was an Airbnb. One in the village of Athens Saturday. Kudos to the Athens Fire Department. They had a quick stop with minimal damage to the residents. And one in Kiskatown, if I'm not mistaken. That was a Airbnb type venue, a large barn structure. Work has been completed at the training center. Around the training center, they repaved. The roof simulator has been completed by Buildings and Grounds, and the highway department is backfilling the around the roadway. New radio monitoring system has been brought online. This was a project that was paid for by grant funding, and we now have the ability to monitor all of our radios from 25 Volunteer Drive. Where in the past, we actually had to drive to the tower sites to see if there was a radio problem. So that's been brought up online, and it's been very beneficial since going online. It monitors everything from environmental controls to the operations of radios to door closures. It's very informative. So
Also remote into that now?
Call volumes for the month of November, there was 557 EMS calls, 182 fire calls, and 1,027 police calls, and the other type calls 725. And the other type calls are calls that we actually go through the mechanics of creating a CAD, but passing it to the Thruway Authority, contacting public health, mental health, or the DSS on-call workers. So fire mutual aid calls, there were 4. EMS mutual aid move up for standbys, there were 27. Phone data numbers, 911 emergency and admin lines, We answered 4,328 times, and there were 338 sheriff's office direct calls into the 911 center for a grand total of 4,666 calls. That's all I have. Any good questions? Great, thank you. Larry, thank you. And Bill, thank you for your support to emergency services. Thank you.
Also with us tonight, we have Sean Hoteling, the EMS coordinator. I talked to Director Farrell, and had some survey results and
Yep.
group of guests coming with you. So,
Survey results should have been distributed out to all the legislators to review over those. If you guys have any questions for the administrators after. Keep it short and sweet with a brief update on the mutual aid. We're in a current process of updating the MCI mutual aid plan, taking out some units that no longer exist. We're updating those currently. We've been moving units around similar to a Columbia County EMS type system that we talked about a few months ago. It's a similar concept. It's not identical. That includes the ambulance services only. That does not include any of the Greene County EMS paramedics. They do their own movement as far as just the ALS work for the towns that they cover. Also, one other update is back and forth trying to set up a meeting with the EMS coordinator out of Delaware County. There's been a spike in usage of their requests for our ambulances, and it's been starting to get out of hand. So before the ski season and the mountaintop starts getting a lot busier, we did not get any confirmation on a date from her for a meeting. However, the town of Ashland has put in a request that Ashland Ambulance will no longer go to Delaware County unless it's a mass casualty incident type. It's just getting, we have enough burden on our own system here and the extended hospital times that we can't be sending everything, helping the neighbors all the time for routine stuff that they have their own issues going on out there. What we've been doing is trying to keep like a regional coverage going on within the county. There's no set exact locations. It's a pretty fluid movement between the 911 center, Randy, myself, Dave, who's the deputy EMS coordinator. We try to monitor and move things around. The zones that are covered is all dependent on what units are still left and what makes the most sense to move them around. But we try to keep each region with at least something available so that we don't get down to a fully depleted system. It seems to be working pretty well so far. As I said, the surveys, you guys have those. I'll introduce the administrators if you have any questions for them once we're done here. Further plans moving forward, trying to finalize some information and to get out to the squad so that we can turn around and try to get as many units up on the mobile CAD and the GPS system to assist with the 911 system as far as being able to move closer units, assign closer units. And also trying to, most of the 911 dispatchers are pretty good. They're coming up to speed. A lot of them can think on their own. It's just starting to come second nature about preparing for vacancies in certain regions, moving units around. They're doing a phenomenal job with what they got to work with. Like, you know, just like everybody else, there's times they're short staffed and they're doing great with what they have so far. Also, we're trying to look at ways to increase enrollments into the EMTs and the medic classes and try to get some people into there because, as you can see on the surveys that they can talk about, is manpower is one of the escalating problems that we're facing here in the future. And we got to try to look at ways of getting people enrolled and start replacing some of the older ones that are leaving the field. And then as we move forward, whether it be the legislators, workshops or further meetings or anything like that, we can always discuss, set up, or wherever you guys would like to go down that road. Like I said, everything at the moment is holding up. Ski season, both mountains are open now, I believe. So this will be the test on the movement. for the past couple of months, we've been reallocating units around in the valley quite often. Over the next couple of weeks, that shift's gonna go a little more westward, as far as maybe seeing some valley units more so up on the mountain, until the springtime. So just constant planning on that. What I'll do, I'll just give a brief introduction to who we have here tonight. We have an administrator of every ambulance service in the county at the moment. Starting from the back left, you have Ray Mahler, administrator at Hero Ambulance. Rick Stanfield next to him, administrator at Durham Ambulance, followed by George June, administrator at Catskill. Matthew Marlowe, administrator at Greenville. You have Nadine Mirdich and Stanley Duchesne Jr., the third. Junior. They're the administrator and one of the assistants for town of Coxsackie. And then right in front of Stanley is Erica Bain. She's the administrator of Hunter Ambulance, followed by Diane Cross, administrator of Ashland Ambulance. And last but not least, Davia Monti, who's the deputy EMS coordinator and the administrator of Wyndham Ambulance. So if you don't have any questions for me at the moment.
Sean, just go through the mobilization again. So they actually move the ambulances?
We are moving units to cover. We won't move them too far, but there's times where a single town ambulance will be kind of shifted in position to cover 2 or 3 towns.
Is it based on a mutual aid agreement or just volunteer right now?
At the moment, the ambulance services themselves have their own mutual aid agreements with their neighbors per se. A lot of them are acting out of the kindness of their heart and fulfilling the requests. For example, there's been days where Catskill, Coxsackie may be all tied up. So in those situations, we'll kind of shift Greenville over to the Coxsackie area. And then maybe a Durham unit or a Hunter unit down to the Palinville-ish area, so that they're covering 2 or 3 towns, but it's decreasing down on the response times for any future calls at that point.
Would you agree that does that work pretty well? And is it financially a burden or?
Yes.
Is it?
Depends on how often that happens.
I assume it's gonna happen more and more. Yep. Because I know Columbia County, we talked, George, we talked about this before, we talked about ambulance concept, but some sort of reimbursement would be welcome, I assume, right? We could come up with a.
Yeah, it happens more frequently, depending on who's moving and how far they're moving, there's a cost of fuel, wear and tear on vehicles, things like that. So there's cost. Like Sean said, we're doing it because we know that's what needs to be done to help reduce response times. But if we're gonna, make this a more permanent thing, that we need to look at that. How do we offset some of those costs?
And is it has reduced response time though to a call in that other town, or and you have not been having your own residents waiting? I mean, they're still covered by.
I think the big difference between Columbia County, they do a lot more movement. That doesn't necessarily result in them answering calls in other communities. We're kind of not. Every time an ambulance goes out in Columbia County, they're moving people around. It's not always the case. As Sean said, it's more like when more than one area is depleted, then we're moving resources. We're not moving as much, but who knows what the winter is going to bring.
Does anybody, I noticed the last 6 weeks or so, we're getting notification of hospitals having extended stays in the parking lots. Is that affecting where patients are deciding to go? Or is it bringing down the out of service times at all?
It's helping.
It does help.
That stemmed from a meeting I had with the medical director, I believe it's his title, Dr. Weisberg at CMH. Because what was happening is we were getting over there and we were sitting for anywhere upwards of 3 to 6 hours. So now we'd have 3, 4 Greene County ambulances sitting over there tied up out of the system. And then that also is more fuel for the units moving to standby. So we did request that their emergency room gives our 911 center a heads up when they're becoming close to their capacity and extended wait times. Most of their staff is pretty good about those notifications. It gives us the ability, if we're in somebody's house or even on the way to the hospital, to say, listen, we can still go there if that's where you want to go, but there may be wait times. Some patients are saying, you know what, it's worth it. That's the only place I want to go, and we take them. Or we can contact the physician in ER. They can either say, okay, that's more serious, we're gonna get them in right away, or we prefer you go somewhere else, or maybe in the waiting room, they have room. There has been, I'd say, probably 30% ballpark of the patients that end up deciding to go to another facility that, you know, I kind of need care a little sooner than waiting for that, and they don't want to risk it, so. It's kind of a mix of.
I've heard in the last several weeks here, I just didn't know what the effect was. If it was
It
actually
seems to be helping our
Go back to service quicker.
our turnaround times for the units, because we're avoiding some of those situations.
So that's good.
But then again, even if we have times where we're going over there, they're not at capacity. By the time we cross the bridge, they took in 3, 4, 5 more ambulances from across the river, and you know, we're still coming into some of those hiccups, but it seems to be saving a little bit on the turnaround times.
I have a question for you. For the manpower, in order to kind of, just an idea, to try to get younger kids involved, I know they have to complete like 100 hours of community service in order to graduate school. Is there any way you could, you know, either talk to the school and kind of get a plug in there, and some of these kids that are looking for things to do in the community, even if it's, I don't know if it's an insurance issue, but even if they went and they learned basic first aid and help, you know, clean ambulances, or.
I don't think that will, I know for municipalities, we don't, there's no civil service position for, even if they were just an ambulance driver with first aid and CPR, there's no civil service ambulance driver position.
No, I'm just talking about a high school kid that needs to get his 100 hours of community
Right, but
service.
I know it wouldn't work for us municipalities. We don't hire drivers. I know like Pasco, I don't know about the rest, but I know that wouldn't help, especially. Another thing is too, if they even wanted to take an EMT class, that starts in September, so that has already, you have to go out of the area.
The only thing I could see maybe is to spark their interest in the following year of getting involved in an EMS career.
Does Coxsackie still do the Explorer Coast or no?
Yeah, we do.
They do.
We've had partnerships with several school districts where they send students to us for career exploration internships. Usually, you know, 3 to 5 days. And it gives them some exposure, but to your point, Chairman Hobart, you know, trying to incorporate students who need to do community service hours into our operation would be very difficult. In a useful way, not only to us, but to them as well.
Right. That's just an idea.
How much does it cost for like schooling in the program?
Ray is our county EMT instructor through here. What do you, about 1,000-ish?
Yeah, it's roughly, it's about $800 in tuition. Problem that we're having is we always used to reimburse that if the student was involved with an agency. In other words, they were already working for an agency, or they were going to be working for an agency. So a lot of the agencies would bring these people on, whether they're younger people or now, most of them are older folks actually, bring them on, and then what the state would do is reimburse that expense. Problem is, most of the agencies now are not hiring unless they're already an EMT. So now the EMTs have got to pull that money out of their pocket to become an EMT to go to work for an agency for anywhere between $15 and $18 an hour. So we've seen our EMT classes. In fact, I've been teaching EMT classes now for 15 years. We used to have classes of 20, 25 people. Teaching a class I'm teaching right now is 4 students.
Wow.
So that shows a decrease over time. Some of it is a financial thing, all right? And the worst part about it is that the way the council is the course sponsor and administration for the courses through the state. At that point, we're losing so much money that if something doesn't happen in the next couple of years, we're going to be out of business anyway. We're not going to teach any EMT classes in the county at all. So at this point right now, it's a financial issue versus the manpower issue. Getting people into the classes, if they're paying for it out of their pocket, as opposed to bringing people in because we will, you know, be willing to cover that cost for them just to get them into the program. And of course, it's 180 hours worth of training
plus 20 hours of clinical time and 10 patient contacts. So it's a fairly time extensive problem that a lot of people, they look at it, if they're doing it as a career and they're saying, it's not worth it when I can go to McDonald's at 15 average or enough. So it's put us in a bind.
What about reaching out to like Fortnightly or like Columbus or something like that, sponsor an EMT?
Is Fortnightly Club?
Fortnightly does,
Yeah.
and right now they sponsor one medic and one EMT per class.
Okay.
And that's gone over real well. It's actually helped, a student who doesn't have an agency.
We want to try to put a little emphasis also. Davey is the deputy coordinator. She's pretty good around EMS week in May, getting out and into the schools and doing some, public relations that way. We're hoping to try to, even if we can get a couple per school district a year, to start thinking that direction at least.
So what about us as a county sending a letter to some of these organizations, having them consider sponsoring EMT, sponsor a driver, whatever else you need? What
That
about
means-
like what Fortnite is doing?
Chairman Langer,
We could look at
what about the
same-
county? I mean, ultimately, no matter what town they live in or village, if the county was to sponsor,
That's what I was just thinking.
And
like a scholarship.
ultimately-
College, it's the same thing, only it's not a college class, it's a workforce.
Well, I'm thinking one of these
If there's an
nonprofit
avenue for it.
groups could apply for the Wayne Greenberg grant. I mean, I would rather see us spend that money there. That's directly
Kind of like a
impacted.
scholarship
Like a scholarship
program.
type program through that.
or even if we took the money and for X amount of candidates and put it out there
If we do
throughout
one
the
or two a
county
year,
and have us pick up the bill. Ultimately, the county residents are gonna, they'd be giving back to the people of the county, and we'd be investing into our own resources.
Even if you had stipulations that they
Yeah, I
would have
mean,
to.
no
work
matter
in
what
the-
town they're in, I
for
mean.
so long or whatever. The other caveat to that is now, if you do any paramedics, I don't know what the most recent paramedic education is. You gotta be $6,000-7,000 easy. I'd imagine, because those are done at the colleges.
What is it, Ray?
It's just under 11,000 for the paramedic program.
Back in the day.
Sean's not up on inflation.
Hudson Valley Community College up in Rensselaer, they can do it in Cobble Skills or down.
And those are more expensive because they're run through the colleges.
They do not offer.
That's something we should talk to Columbia
Well,
Green about.
we certainly, that's one of the discussions we had about this foundation that we donated to, that we put money to, that it benefit Greene County students, and hopefully these students in the workforces that are needed, whether it's paramedics, EMS, EMTs, or other various, job interests that we're short of here in Greene County. So I don't know what it would take to get approval. I don't know if Columbia Green would start a paramedic class.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
No,
It's a pretty expensive program. I've had a number of people contact me wanting to take the class, they just simply couldn't afford it. I mean, some kind of scholarship program would be a tremendous asset, because of the fact that now it takes that burden of having to pay for the class off of that, because most of the people that are going into the field now are not high school students. They're people who are out working a full-time job elsewhere, and they're doing this as either a side job or just because they want to help the community. And they look at the expense of it and they say, I can't afford that right now. Most of these people are not coming from, well-to-do areas, they're coming from basically from poor rural areas that want to do it. You tell them, it's gonna cost you $800 right off the top, and that tends to put a dent in their interest.
Staffing issue is so bad in larger areas where there's larger services. They are actually hiring people and paying them to go through EMT class. They're getting paid a salary to take the course, and then when the course is completed, they have to serve for, at most places, it's a 2-year commitment to work for that agency for 2 years to pay back what they invested in you just to take the class. So it's not even a matter of and we hire people, they're paying people to become EMTs just so they can get enough staff,
And we're still short.
and we're still.
At Hunter, we offered them to take the class and put down to work for us for at least 2 years. But the interest isn't there as much, you know, it's getting like the, getting paid we just got raises, a lot of them seems to see raises. And getting benefits is a big thing that, you know, EMTs are not getting.
And all the agencies are working about the same manpower. So if I have an opening at my slot, I would call all people who work for me, they're already working for another agency.
Right.
So all we're doing, I say these people come home, they go to bed, they get up, they change their shirt and go back to work for another agency.
And that's my concern with, there was an idea floating around and putting a countywide ambulance on to float around the county, and it's all well and good, but where's the staffing gonna come from? It's gonna come from the same agencies that are already hurting for staffing. So
And that's the only thing,
that's a concern that I have.
that's the only thing that's kind of piecing this whole system together right now is the ability that people can work multiple agencies. Because if all the administrators had to drop their staff down to that was their only job, there'd be a lot of ambulances unmanned.
And this is not unique just to this county.
No.
It's
It's
statewide.
state and nationwide.
Makes us appreciate the volunteers for all the times they put in for all those years.
I don't understand why the wages are so low. I mean, it's like, it's such a needed service. I'm incredulous that the wages are so stinking low.
And unfortunately, most of that is just the rate of reimbursement. Reimbursements are not where they should be in order to run these operations.
Sean, was it 2 years ago that we did get a bump up on those payments? But it wasn't even close to what's needed.
Never had a case of losing.
At one point, I think 2016 or 2017, Greene County had the second lowest Medicaid reimbursement rate in the state.
Right.
That's come up a little bit, but again, it's still no, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, it's still nowhere close to covering the cost of what it is to provide service.
And we're seeing a lot more Medicaid.
Yeah, your aging population, you're gonna see a lot more of it.
And Medicare's consistent care.
And we're not essential. We're essential to COVID. I had to pay a minute.
I have one thing relative to the mutual aid. I know there was meetings many months ago. I think it was in Health Services Committee. But there was some discussion about waiving the fees that are charged to Catskill for ALS Intercept. Well, the question, our agency has been criticized because we will not send our last available ALS ambulance outside the town of Catskill to participate in countywide mutual aid unless it was a mass casualty. Reason for that is because if we do that, if I send my paramedic ambulance to cover a call in Cairo, and while we're doing that call, there's another call in Catskill that requires a Greene EMS paramedic, we're being charged $500 and some by Greene EMS for them to cover that call. So there's a financial disincentive for us to be a good neighbor and send our ambulances all over the county. It was proposed back then that if there was some way to alleviate that, we would be agreeable to changing our policy and sending our ambulances wherever they're needed. I don't know whatever became of those discussions, if there was discussion about that, but I know in talking with my town board, we are definitely agreeable to amending that policy if something can be worked out.
George, if you get call in, or if Greene EMS is called in to cover an ALS call in Catskill, you're getting a $500 bill.
Yeah, I believe it's five.
But it's still transported on your ambulance.
No.
Well, whoever's
Well,
ambulance.
yeah, whoever. If it's our ambulance, sometimes we may only have a BLS crew available, or if it's somebody else, Coxsackie has to come in.
So who bills the ALS service?
What's that?
Who bills for the ALS service?
In that case?
Right.
Whoever the transporting ambulance.
So if you're the transporting ambulance, you're billing for the ALS service that you
Yes,
were billed
but
for.
if it's, if it's somebody else that's coming in to do the call, then there's that tax.
And then they're gonna bill for it.
So Cooksaki does the call with the Greene County Medic. Cooksaki will bill that for the transport, but the town of Catskill will get charged for the paramedic usage.
Correct.
Yeah,
Again, I think
Yeah, I
every
think
other
that
town writes a
resolution
check.
was tabled. Everything's out.
Yeah, it was not
Looking
voted
at
on.
ways to, to bolster things and improve EMS mutual aid, that's one place you can take a look.
I agree with you. What were some of the other issues? I know I had asked for, because I wanted to hear directly from, the administrators as to what were some of these major issues. And not only what are the major issues, but what do you see that we can do to help alleviate some of the problems, to fix the problem? You don't have all the answers. You are the ones that are on the ground dealing with all of this. So what are some of the things that you think that we can do as county government to assist? Salary, each ambulance, really. I know transport was an issue that we talked about.
Well, on the surveys, I mean,
I
I
see the
don't.
staffing was a big one, right?
That was
We
everybody.
talked about that.
Everyone.
But I know that transporting was a major issue. That we didn't have ambulances that were able to transport.
Well, no, because of the wait times at the hospital.
That was one more recent.
Yeah, and that was before they were able to move ambulances around the county and stage, which they said is working somewhat better. It's reduced response times.
And I think part of that was also before Greenville committed to the 24-hour service.
Correct.
Which has helped with some of that burden in the center of the county.
And I know we talked about the Columbia County model about, perhaps as the county, Columbia County perhaps puts out a stipend, is that what it was? To have an extra ambulance that would float throughout the county or move, and then the county gives them a stipend that's good for the town. Is that how that works?
They utilize under contract all the local services, and when they shift them around, the county will pay a standby fee coverage. And then if that unit does a call, the county will do away with the standby fee, but pay them for doing the call. But I believe that budgetary item for them is running $700,000 to $800,000 a year, I believe. But their unique system over there is all of their ambulance services are all at the paramedic level. So here it's a little unique because we have 2 paramedic level ambulances and all the rest of the paramedics are in the fly cars under a different agency. So it's kind of a little more confusing to kind of mix match.
Catskill and Wyndham have.
Yes.
I don't know what the results of the survey were. I just know what my answers were. And we talked already about, the staffing and some of the things, and there's some very good discussion about ways that the county can help through the scholarships, whether it's the county directly or through grant monies. So that's a big thing. Reimbursement rates, the county doesn't have a lot of control over that, other than to try to lobby the state to make those changes. As well as, I think, first of all, let me say, I'm thankful to be here tonight. I'm thankful that you folks want to hear what we have to say. Since 2015, when we concluded the EMS task force work, I don't think there's ever been an opportunity where the legislature has asked the ambulance services directly what we think about EMS in this county. We're the people that are out there doing it every day, right? Yet we seem to have very little input into what happens here in the discussions that happen here.
Well, that's why I
Thankful to
asked.
be here, but I think it's on everybody's mind lately is the hospital situation and the wait times. That's putting tremendous strain on our system. And I don't know what connections the county government has with Columbia Memorial Hospital, but if there's a way for you to at least make them aware that, hey, look, you need to understand the impact that you're having on emergency services in our county. Yeah, obviously, the ER director is, and people who work in the emergency room, because they deal with us one-on-one, but at the corporate level of the hospital, I don't know that they have full appreciation of what's going on and how their problems now become our problems.
George, have you seen the difference since Albany Med became the parent company basically for more?
Not necessarily. We're still interfacing with the same people that we used to before, so we haven't really seen much of a change there. That's how the other reality is, these issues, the staffing issues at the hospital have been building for some time. This is not a new problem, although now it's to the point between their staffing issues and increased demand for services at the hospital. It's kind of the perfect storm.
Couple things from the survey that I myself would need to get a better handle on the dollars and cents of the whole EMS, ALS, whatever it is one is for all our ambulance services, how many ambulances are idle now due to lack of staffing? The dollar amount that it would take to bring that staffing up to level 2, bring more ambulances on to complete this, circular movement of ambulance services. And 2 is which is a good point, is on the scholarship side of things. How many people do you think would go to a paramedic level training because of the bump up in pay? And then therefore you might have even more ALS services available through more town ambulance services. I don't know if you can answer that now, if you've got to think about that.
To your second point, I have more paramedics on my staff than I have physicians. I have people, EMTs and advanced EMTs that have gone on to become paramedics, but I don't have a place to put them. Our operational model is 2 paramedic units, 24 hours a day. There may be some days though where I could have a 3rd paramedic unit on because I have the paramedics to do that, but that's not a normal thing. So that kind of goes back to your first point. Okay, could I put more units on the road and staff them at a higher level? Potentially. Give you some figures on what that would cost. I don't know. Everybody else is usually fully staffed. I'm the only service that's running multiple crews on a daily basis. There are times, I would say 1 to 2 times a week where I don't have the full complement of crews that I would normally have simply because I don't have enough available.
Well, I guess, you want to know, or you want to try to know, is that the scholarship potentially down the road may be offered that alleviates the training costs for them. But then just even the higher bump up in pay from going to from EMT to paramedic. Is that enough, in your opinion, your experience with the employees that you deal with, and their consternation, their complaints to you? This was available. Have you gotten a lot of that, or is it just because we lack people in general in this county? So what is the real answer then? Just for that?
Most of those that go on to become paramedics come in at the basic EMT level. All right, and that's where the problem is. The numbers of people coming in at the basic EMT level have decreased. All right, if we could bring more people in at the basic EMT level, the potential for more to go on to paramedic school is significant. But unfortunately, we're lacking it right from the bottom up. We've got plenty of vehicles in the county. I mean, almost every agency, actually every agency does have at least 2 vehicles, most of which one is staffed all the time, the second one's system. I mean, if you could inject right now 20 more EMTs in the system, right? There's a lot of agencies that would put on a second ambulance at least maybe 12-hour shift daytime, cover the most needed time, right? But it all boils down, you keep decreasing increasing the number of people who are on these ambulances. And for a long, you can have ambulances sitting there because you simply cannot staff them, no matter what you do.
And that's another area where, we're looking ahead, what can we do at the local level to try to bolster and build some resilience into our system? Most agencies in this county can't afford to put 2 crews on every day, not even 24 hours, they were just 2 crews during the daytime, which is the busiest time. But they might be able to do that. The county offered some financial assistance. Greg, can you put a second crew on Wednesdays? Well, gee, I might be able to find the people to do that 1 day a week. I can't do it 7 days a week because, right, because I don't have the staff and I can't afford it. But there may be a way where, again, if we increase and bolster the staff, we could, maybe individually, towns and agencies could put additional staffing on to help. And again, if we're moving units around, okay, today Greenville's gonna have a second crew on during the day. So if we need to move units around, well, that's the one we're gonna move, okay? But again, it's gotta be a collaborative effort. The individual municipalities cannot take on that role and that responsibility and the cost of that by themselves. It's gotta be a group effort. And that's another thing that without one agency having to invest everything to do that, we can do it together.
Well, that's what I was asking. Could we have like, almost like a mutual aid ambulance that our 911 system could then move around instead of relying on the municipality? So Randy knows that there's an extra, ambulance in Greenville today, or in Catskill today, or in Greenville today, and have that serve as almost like a mutual aid type system.
So do you know per day what it would cost to have a crew on for a 12-hour day shift?
That seems to be pretty easy to figure out.
I'm just saying, if you've got, if it's $1,000 a day for the two, or whoever total amount for the 12-hour shift, and it's 365 days in a year, and somehow that works out, the county knows, we as a legislative body know, okay, it's $365,000 that you guys are looking for potentially. I'm not saying that we can, but at least we know a dollar amount that we can start to look at, okay, what's the commitment level we at the legislative level are gonna do here?
I mean, a ballpark would be, Matt's kind of in the rage. They've come up to a competitive salary out there in Greenville. And their budget shows one ambulance 24 hours a day. So if you wanted a ballpark, maybe in the area of half of his budget could be a potential starting point for a 12-hour a day.
It'd be easy to get you those numbers.
Yeah.
Ray, you mentioned class sizes that have gone from the 20s down to 4. If there were an incentive program and a grant to pay for that class for people to take, realistically, how many do you think you might get additionally in a year? Would you get 3? Would you get 10?
I know this year I had 2 people who wanted to take a class and could not because of the cost. Okay. A lot of it has to do with a couple of different things. Number one, the desire to do the job.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's what I'm asking. How many people would actually take it if we said, here's the $800, take the class?
I think that if we could sponsor somebody that is interested in taking the class, I think you could probably bring those classes back up to 10 or 12 people with no problem. It's got to be good information out there. It'll also give us the opportunity to teach daytime classes as opposed to just nighttime classes. So
I mean, 10, if we had 10 a year, that would make a difference. It would take a little bit of time to get them there, yes.
But over the next few years,
it would
that
make a
fills
big
in
difference
for
in
one
3 years.
the problem that we're having is our only income is from students taking the class. When you got 4 students taking the class, you're paying an instructor, you're losing money on every class. It takes about 10 to 12 students to break even.
TMS, we're gonna lose money.
We're losing money big time. We're hemorrhaging. The only reason we're surviving is because back 8, 10, 12 years ago, we did have classes that actually made us money. All right, but little by little, that money is decreasing because the reimbursement that we're getting is not covering the costs of covering the costs.
To Mr. Hobart's point earlier about the schools getting the kids, that's where the key is, getting them interested early enough. And Questar had a program a couple years ago. It was run through Questar. And I don't know if they have, it. It's
They
still,
still do,
it's
but
still-
they don't come to our county because
right. Well, I know that from the last class, or 2 years ago, there's at least 5 people that went through that program at Questar that are working in Greene County right now. I know at least 2 of them, or 3 are working for me, and I know there's one working for you.
He's the one who's already percent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those programs have been effective for us. Getting them interested early and. I don't know if
That's our
there's.
target, because really, realistically, it's hard for any adult, especially a family, to take a class, work all day, go to class from 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. For their didactic portion, then on top of that, add their clinical hours and lab hours, it's just not realistic to make. For my age, to think soccer only starts at 12:72, so. We're gonna go to Burger King and Hudson at 16:50.
You okay there, Patty?
But it's also retraining for that as well. Like,
Retention.
you're going to take the course, and
That's
EMS isn't really a career, where you're being paid a livable wage and benefits and vacation time and all that stuff, and it's difficult. Who's gonna look at this job and wanna do it?
To Mike's point earlier, about the dollars, the wage. We're at 17 and change. You guys just went to 18, right? You're up to 16 and something?
18 and 19, 20.
Yeah, we pay weekend differential as well. And those are in the top, 15% in the region as far as EMTs. There's only a few handful of agencies that are paying higher than that. And we still don't have people beating down the door.
Yeah.
Even at those wages.
And we're hiring just drivers as well.
The Questar program is still going on,
I believe so.
and does that take place at the Questar BOCES building over in Greenport?
Yeah.
And I know our kids from Greene County go over to that school.
has anybody ever gone to guidance counselors in the schools and make sure that they are offering this? Because I feel like guidance counselors really misguide our children a lot. I'm sorry.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, no, but I think a lot of them, they just push, college only, go for that 4 years of college and become something. Maybe if there was a meeting with school superintendents or principals and said, make sure we're offering this, let them know what the benefits of this are, don't mention the wages. But maybe there'd be more, it sparked more of an interest in these students. I don't know. Have we ever?
Right.
But again, it's like I say, they look at, what they have to do to get to a job like this. And there really isn't, not working apart.
Maybe we should, as administrators, reach out to the schools, because I feel like
Well, we do.
a lot of times it's for EMS, everything's for EMS. No offense, Green County paramedics, Green County paramedic part-time, but it's always Green County paramedics in the forefront, and never town of Coxsackie, town of Ashland, town of Catskill. We're kind of never thought of.
We've done some stuff with Catskill schools years ago. I think right now, COVID kind of put a stop to that. But we had done at least 2 or 3 years where we did a career day with Catskill, some 3 months.
Just a letter to, to the guidance counselors and superintendents, just to make sure that this is mentioned and it's, maybe kids are not looking at this as a career choice.
Right now, it's hard to with COVID, like, hard.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, I think that's a huge impact, even not just for obviously healthcare as a whole, but especially we're on literally the forefront of it. We're stuck in a tiny ambulance when there's, 3 inches of space between your patients, going to people's houses, right? I think that has a lot to work $12.52 an hour.
I think it comes back to the core, what I heard a couple times here tonight. It takes a certain individual to be committed. to go into this line of work. And these students in our high schools in the county, a lot of them are not looking for this type of commitment. And I think that's the big problem right here. I'm hearing it tonight. Is any kind of emergency services, it takes a huge commitment and a certain individual to do that job. I think that's what we're up against. I mean,
You can guide them.
we could try to guide, pick up a couple, one or two here and there, but they gotta really want it. That's what I'm hearing, and that's what I'm seeing. It's just a whole different line of work that everybody's not cut out to do.
Well, I
Am
agree.
I right on that, or how do you get around that? That's my question.
And that might be where the schools and the guidance counselors that are appropriately monitoring their students, maybe they
Yeah.
can look for those qualities in these students.
You see a lot of that.
I wonder if, so FASD, the Firemen's Association of the State of New York, has a higher education learning program where they will reimburse $1,500 a semester for those that commit to a corresponding number of years of service to a fireman. And the degree program they're involved in has it doesn't have to have any tie to emergency services. For instance, I am actually enrolled in that program right now for nursing school. That's no problem volunteering the rest of my life at my fire company. It's going to help me get to college. Cool. We talked about scholarship for EMT classes. Is there a place perhaps? I know you've done an outstanding job providing scholarships for students to go to Greene for other programs, like Green Light for enrollment, things like that. Is that an opportunity where, hey, you commit to serving a certain number of years in EMS in our county? Will help you out, which, a completely unrelated college field. You want to get your English degree or your history degree or whatever. You go to school for 4 semesters, get to 4 years of service in EMS.
I understand.
I think that's something we should approach for research. But I think right now, as far as the EMT, like you were saying, there's 2-3 people who were willing, but they couldn't afford it. I think right now, we should discuss everything that was brought up here tonight, but I think ultimately as a legislature, we should consider a scholarship fund in order to get the people who are deterred because of the cost of it, is to make them whole. And at least that's a start in the right direction to provide services to all the agencies, but ultimately to the people of Greene County. Just my idea.
I agree with you, Tony. I think I really feel like some of that Wayne Schoenberg money that we have could be used to sponsor.
You got the COVID money that just came in. These people are out dealing with people with COVID every day.
That's right.
There's however many millions of dollars there. We should be able to come up with the amount of money to dedicate to people to take the EMS, the EMT course. And if you get 5 people, or like you're saying, 10, Rome wasn't built in a day, but if we, can grab 5 and 5, and if you get 10 annually, and it helps the people in the county, I think it's a win-win situation.
And I think you can use that as an advertising platform as well. Okay, saying, look, there are scholarships available. All right, people who may not have considered this as a career now say, oh, if I can go do this, get a scholarship to do it, maybe now I'll go ahead into that field.
We have mailings and the EMT stuff, Warren, or the IT stuff we put out on the website. If you put that out there for the people so it's accessible via the internet, along with the mailings that go out, maybe it'll entice some people to say, wow, they're going to pay for it. And it's something that I really wanted to do, and we'll pull those people out who have the fire in their belly to provide these types of services.
Every little bit helps.
What was the name of the college program that you said like Hudson Valley has?
It's,
Local skill?
yeah, it's the
Paramedic.
paramedic,
Just
New York
paramedic.
State paramedic.
And I will make a phone call, tonight to our assemblyman, as far as the reimbursement rates, as far as what we get. I mean, it should be even across the board, wherever you're geographically located. I've never agreed with that. And I think it was 2016 or 17 when we talked about it here.
I think we should do something from the whole legislature to.
The board did do that and it did result in an increase in the Medicaid.
Well, let's write another
I
letter.
think we should write another letter.
Well,
It's
Mark,
not enough.
Or why wouldn't the college charge back if Hudson Valley has a paramedic course or whatever? We have people from Greene County going to these different institutions throughout the state. And we pay a good sum from the college charge back every month. Joe, I don't know what it was this past month. But the county pays, it comes back, they charge back the county. So we should look into that.
Right, the towns, the agencies, you
Yeah,
can promote
town,
that
yeah.
because they're off the hook as far as chargebacks.
700,
Greenville, Carroll,
it's approximately $700,000 a year,
yeah, so
right?
I think maybe somebody ought to get
700,000 a
on
year
the
approximately.
bandwagon and see what's
The
going
cost
on.
of paramedic school is a big concern to a lot
Well,
of people. You're trying to lay out that kind of money, that's a lot.
But you ought to see the charges we get back.
700,000 a
They're
year.
going to New York to some artsy craft college or some damn thing. So,
Students that live in this county.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. So it's charged back to you.
Sure it does.
charge back.
It gets charged back to each town in the
Well,
county.
it
He
comes-
pays it in.
the towns used to pay for it.
Then we took it over.
We
It took
took
us
it
6
over.
years. to pay
Now
for
it's, you ought to see the price.
it. We did it 20% a year.
So,
Probably 3 terms ago, we did that. And then we took 1 year off. I don't know, it was
it was a 5-year,
we had a problem with our budget. So we did it after 6 years. We took it. So we pay all the town's chargebacks, the county does. And it, again, don't hold me to it, but it's approximately $700,000 a year that the county pays. in college chargebacks for 14 towns.
so that's, there may be a in.
Is that
So
applicable?
look into it, Warren, will you please?
Is that applicable to any college in the state? Or is that just like?
Any student that goes to a community college outside of Greene County.
Four-year school. Somehow.
Legislator Davis has something he wants to add.
Do you think we could use ARPA money to train EMTs with the increased need for?
No, that's what he just said. Tommy just said it.
I believe you can.
That's what I
There's
just said.
not a lot of specific detailed.
That's what Hobart just said.
guidance, But
Yeah,
generally,
we
yes,
could-
there would be a nexus for that.
I think that should be a priority.
Yeah, I think we
We could
need to,
easily scholarship 20 EMTs.
Right.
trainers.
Would it be a possibility to, by the end of the class, somebody has to be 18, correct?
Yes, that's correct, by the end of the class.
Would it be possible for the schools to offer students that will be 17 by the end of the class? Like in September, they can sign up for the EMT class and the school could provide transportation to care of those 2 nights. If they get, say, at least 2 or 3 students to go.
that's a logistical question. I mean, if you're providing the money for the,
Yeah.
Yeah, like a school car to take these students on Tuesday, and Thursday nights down to, then that town ambulance could somehow, help them with their rides, their clinical times and stuff.
Their flexibility with Greene County Transit for when those classes are being done, that there's a route, or their routes on those buses. Potentially, we can kind of rework their routes and the times of their routes to maybe get these kids to this training and then back on that.
I wouldn't use the term flexibility, Mike, with public transportation, but it could be, but it's not very flexible.
Right.
Because they're fixed routes.
Yeah, I didn't know if, whenever the training is occurring.
Typically, we do 6:30, so that's right, 6:30 PM, runs to 9:30.
many weeks or does it go?
6 months.
6 months.
To the educators in the room. Is there a way for high school students to get credit if they were to take this class? Obviously, they're doing it through Questar, that's an accredited program, but I'm talking about, we're trying to incentivize, high school age students to take the course. Besides paying for it, is there a way that they can receive some credit other than just the community service credits? Or
I would
something
think
like
the
that?
superintendent of school boards would have that authority to say whether it will be accredited course.
Right, they'd have to bring it before the school board.
Right.
Well, that's a good point though. No, it shouldn't be. You have a certified trainer.
Did it once. The CFR class. It was not a well-run class that turned out to be a disaster, but it was more of an experimental type thing. But unfortunately, the students that were in the class didn't take it seriously. So Harry hit the nail right at the head. If you're not cut out for this work, you're not going to do it no matter what you pay. All right. You certainly get the fact that you're getting paid is career, certainly helps. But if you don't have the first time you get vomited on, it's make you want to go in different directions. So a lot of people just can't handle that.
Well, it's more of a service. I mean, a personal service. By you,
I asked that.
by you individuals.
The difference between this and the Questar program, obviously, kids are going through Questar, they've already made a commitment to exploring that career track, whether it's this or whether it's auto mechanics, cosmetology, whatever other programs they have. But this line is attractive to students who want to go on to medical school. I know at least 4 young people who graduated from college who wanted to go on to PA school or nurse practitioner school and couldn't even apply because they didn't have any patient contact hours. So there's a huge gap for a lot of these people is they don't have any way to get patient contact experience before they try to apply to these programs.
Well, there's an example, there's a drive.
Right.
There's a drive for those individuals that
Right. So
realize
if they
that.
could say, hey, look, I want to go and get this done, you can try to appeal to somebody
Right.
and say, look, yeah, we know you're not going to stay in EMS forever, but you're looking for a way to get some contact hours and also kind of help us out at the same time. This might be a pathway for that. This is not the same, these are not the same students who are probably in the Questar track, because these are people who are taking advanced level bio and stuff like that. So that's why
We reach out to colleges as well as, guidance counselors in high schools and, make sure they're offering this to their students who need to get in these practical hours. We might just have to be a little more aggressive in how we're trying to.
We've approached the subject with the college because they have a standout nursing program. And one of the struggles the college has is the clinical hours. They can't get the clinical hours for their students because they basically have Columbia Memorial. And we talked to them about the possibility of clinical hours being approved by them going to EMT services in our county, especially our county residents who are going for nursing. And somehow they get their clinical hours through, through you guys. And they're kind of reluctant to do that. It wasn't a stamp no. I mean, they have to get approval from SUNY and things like that. But for me, what a perfect match of having nursing students who are going into that field because they're going to get vomited on too, whether they're in a hospital or.
There is some state regulations that play into this as well. They have to be certain things like that. And I think everything should be on the table. You just play it right now. I mean, we're at a point that's going to be critical here in a very short period of time.
Are you guys willing to commit some time to working this out? I mean, we've done it before, we never raised the work with the ambulance task force. I mean, let's come up with something on paper that we can look at and fund if necessary. I don't think we're going to solve it tonight. All these ideas are being lost.
Right.
Well, I think that's the point of the council. that's really where the council is going to play, because you've got the council representatives from all
From all
the
the
MSAs. Yeah, really where the.
I mean, everything from the mutual aid to the reimbursement if they move an ambulance to classes to tuition. And I think all these ideas,
I heard 4 key ideas: lobbying the state to make reimbursement changes,
we can do that without their permission,
Right.
right? We can just give that
hospital wait time, having a conversation with the corporate office perhaps,
some difficult.
maybe our county administrator can make a call to their administrator. Scholarship program, perhaps using ARPA money, perhaps talking with Columbia Greene about the New York State paramedic program. And then as Bill suggested, potential mutual aid ambulance, what the cost is going to be, eliminating that mutual aid fee in Catskill. What is the potential cost of having an ambulance that can float around to different towns if there's a town willing to put on another crew?
Half the cost of the Greenville is.
I was using that as a ballpark figure because they're an agency that has one crew
So those are
24
the-
hours a day
those
with
are what I
one
picked
ambulance.
up as the 4 major topics.
Well, there's a fifth topic.
For a full-time crew year round, half of that is 12 hours.
There's a fifth topic, and that's their pay.
Right, that's their pay.
You gotta get their pay up.
Yeah, but that ultimately comes from the town that they're in.
Yeah, but we're gonna have to lobby.
On the provider level, it seems to be more about the benefit packages that are offered versus the dollar amount. I mean, we still have a couple that are,
Pay and, when I say pay, I mean benefit to one big package.
yeah, well, the whole package needs to be.
It's gotta be bought up. $12.72 an hour, that don't fly.
I mean, Patty's been
Not
through
for
this
that,
But I mean,
before
that's
with
gonna
the
go
task force,
through
right?
the local
We've been through this before with the task force.
towns.
We're gonna have to lobby them.
Repeat that.
We're gonna have
So
to
you're
support them.
thinking maybe besides
Every
the
2
state
weeks.
making reimbursement, lobbying to the towns, Harry, is that what you're
Yeah, you gotta have a lobbying effort.
But before you do that, you gotta know exactly what they want.
Right.
Then we can put that into a
Put
package.
it into a package. Now, Columbia Greene is gonna take, even if they entertain us, it's gonna take
Take
them
years.
3-4 years to even get a program thought of. Even to get it up and running, you're looking at probably 5 years. That's not gonna help the problem.
But you have to start.
No, we have to start
Right.
somewhere.
You start it now.
But that, you can start it for down the road.
I don't think it should be off the table.
Huh?
I don't think it should be off the table.
No, I'm just saying it's gonna take a long time if they even entertain. Because we lobbied for the, the construction and the cooking and the what was the other one? Automobile, and they got it all, but it took years.
And the micro credentials.
The micro credentials, the law enforcement academy is outstanding.
So we start with the easiest battles first. And then
Right.
And the good thing is that we're not at that peak crisis right now.
Right.
But we're all in agreement that this has the potential. So with all these different staged out, down the road planning, this could be the time to start looking at that and before it does become a
And I-
critical level.
I think like now, like we should look at, like we were talking about, like you used as an example, Greenville, but just come up with a number for what we need in order to get an extra crew on. And we need to do a scholarship with ARPA money or however you want to fund it, whatever you want to call it, to get people in for you. I mean, so we don't hit a crisis where we're totally shorthanded. I mean, and I applaud all of you for the jobs that you do, but we need to, make sure we have, proper prior planning. That way we don't have poor performance. So it seems like a big wave that's coming. And if we can provide money to educate people and get them into the classes to provide a service back and everybody benefits, I think it's a win-win as far as lobbying and doing what we have to do here. Like Harry's saying with the college, I mean, just, we have to ask, see what happens.
Remember, our ARPA has to be a short-term, one-shot
Right.
fix because it needs to be allocated by 24 and expended by 26.
Right, by 2026. So I mean, but 3 years, if he can get, perfect world is 30, but if you got 15, that's 15 more that we didn't have. And as far as the reimbursement, I mean, we can ask. I mean, I don't really see, I mean, they already contract with us to provide a service to the county of Greene. Why would they, I get it, how the nutshell and the P, and to move money here and there, it's absurd.
Everyone know what ARPA stands for? You all probably all know. Recovery money we're referring to. That's what we're referring to. We got $9.3 million from the federal government. Two deposits, one this year and one next, right? Warren? We got $9.3 million. 9.1. 9.1. We got one deposit already. And then what's the next deposit? Next year?
I don't know when the next one's coming through. Mid next year.
Mid next year. Anyway, that's the money we're looking at to do this stuff.
Get it where you can.
I think we all recognize this is one of the most essential services in the county that it needs to just.
That's for
And
sure.
maybe,
Do something.
I appreciate all of you coming in. I think we have to keep the door open between each municipality, whether it's through Sean or, coming to us again. I think we came up with a good list tonight. This is just consistent. Thank you for taking the time.
Across the board.
Thanks for having us.
Like I said, I appreciate the opportunity to meet with you and have these frank discussions. And I'm encouraged that there's at least initially some willingness to work with the townships that operate and agencies that operate in the county. As Nadine said, you read the Daily Mail, and you think the only thing that exists in this county is Greene EMS, which, don't get me wrong, they're absolutely right for, self-promotion. That's how nonprofits survive in this world. But there's other people out there on the front line that we need your help. Can't say it any simpler. We need your help. We need your cooperation and your help to keep this going.
No, we need you.
That's right.
We need you, so.
And
partnership.
with that, I mean, exactly, we're all in this together. We don't have a hospital, and, we gotta protect the people of the county, and just gotta do what we gotta do.
And Bob, if you need to speak with us, don't wait for an invite. If there's something going on that you feel you need to speak with us, get in touch with Tom and either be heard.
You got a
Don't
direct
wait for
phone
us to
number.
invite you in if there's something going on you really need our help with.
Thank you.
Everybody good? Anything else? Thanks, Sean.
And from Greene with us too.
Pick up some hours and pass.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, now on to the proposed action items. Didn't even do the proposed action items? Another fine mess you got us up to there. You're taking over after your predecessor.
That's right.
Right.
An hour long vote.
Okay, onto the proposed action items. I have the first one, emergency services, reaffirmation of NIMS procedures. Can I get a motion? Martinez. Handle. All in favor?
Aye.
Bloomer. He's been yelling over here.
This is Martinez Handle.
I know, but he's been yelling.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carry. Number two, reappointing Greene County Emergency Service Director. I'd like to make that motion. Martinez.
I'll second it also.
Handle.
Also.
Anybody else second?
I second to your second, I guess.
Who moved it? You or Charlie?
Myself, and Charlie.
Charlie seconded.
Unanimous.
And who else is seconding?
Here,
Is it everybody?
Lennon, Gardner, Handle. Bloomer.
Is it the whole committee?
Yes. Everybody but Thorne. He would if he. Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carry. Number three, reappointing emergency medical service coordinator.
Handle.
Bloomer.
Handle, Bloomer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second also.
Opposed? So carry. Carrie's also a second on that. Number four, reappointing Greene County Emergency Medical Director.
Handle.
Handle, Martinez. I'd like to second that also. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? fifth and final one, reappointing the public defender.
Yeah, I guess so.
He hasn't been there in
Randall
a while.
Martinez. I'd also like to second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
From the garden five.
So carried.
Go.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Handle.
Candle,
He doesn't have to
I'll
come.
second it. We are adjourned. Good, Pam?
You're gonna find a message.